So we have Lamed Daled for today. Yesomim shebo lachlok b'nichsei aviem, bezdin mamidim lem apotropos, uborim lahem chelek yofe. So bezdin are considered the avim shel yesomim. They have to take care of the needs of these orphans, and in this case, to divvy up the estate of the late father. And they appoint an apotropos for each one of the various yarshim, so that each one has a representative and an agent who's going to vie for him and try to get at least an equal share of the estate. Now, what power do these apotropsim have? And it would seem that since they're appointed by Bezdin, we have a principle called Koach Bezdin. And that's why it says over here that Higdili Cholim Limchos, that although there is an opinion of Rav Nachman in the name of Shmuel, so Rav Nachman here is quoting Shmuel, that the agency of the apotropos on behalf of the Yisomim is only midin zachin li'olim shlo b'fanav. And we have a principle of Yachol Limchos, that whenever you implement a zechia on the part of someone, then that person who is zoch has the right to say, no, for me, it's not a zchus. And this could undermine the entire procedure of the divvying up, the chalukas hayerusha on the part of the apotropos. Rav Nachman Didei, even though Rav Nachman said this in the name of Shmuel, he himself disagreed with Shmuel. And Omar, he holds dilu ein yachol limchos dimkein ma bezdin ma koch bezdin yofe. So it means that, at least in the area of Dini Mamanos, and we'll see if we can apply this even to Gerushin, Bezdin is given utmost authority. And what happens with Bezdin is evenly kuva, Bezdin is going to have the upper hand. And that's why, according to Rav Nachman, the Yesomim could not even, when they get older, they cannot even protest and undermine that which was implemented by the apotropsim insofar as they were representative of Bezdin. So we see that Rav Nachman holds from the principle of Ma Koach Bezdin Yofe. And this is a major problem because Rav Nachman himself paskined earlier on the previous Amud like Rebbe, and Rebbe says that although the Takana of Rabbi Gamliel requires that a bittul haget takes place in the presence of the shliach, but nevertheless, Rebbe is of the opinion that if the Baal went ahead and he was mevatel the get, and it was not in the presence of the shliach, the get is batel. The bittul habal is absolutely valid to invalidate the get, and we're not going to say ma koach bezdin yofe. The Gemara differentiates. Hasam, with regard to Yisomim, we're dealing with Mamona. And in the area of Mamona, we have a principle called Hefker, Bezdin Hefker. So Bezdin could take money from Ruvain's pocket and put it into Shimon's pocket. And therefore, once the Chalukas HaYerusha was implemented, Mikoach Bezdin, then even though on a Doraisa level, operating within the framework of Zechia, the Yarshim, the Yisomim, have the rights to be Molcha when they reach of age, but nevertheless, we're going to insist that that Chalukah is valid. But Hocha, if you're talking about Bittul HaGet, and the Baal was invited to get Shelo B'fnei HaShliach, then that's Isur. Now we're dealing with Eshes Ish. And although in Momenos, Chachamim have this ultimate authority to take money out of one pocket of Ruvain and put it into the pocket of Shimon, but with regard to Bittul HaGet, what we're talking about is Eshes Ish. And the Baal went ahead and he was mevatel the get, which means that on a deraisa level, the get is batel, even though it was Shelo B'fnei HaShliach. And that means that she maintains her status as an Eshes Ish. So the only way the Chachamim could possibly invalidate his bittul and therefore validate the get and therefore allow her to get married is based on the principle of afkeinu rabbanan l'kedushin minei. And the rabbanan don't want to be mafkia the kedushin of the Torah that the Torah recognizes. Now we're about to enter into a major machlokas between Abai and Rava on what's called Gilui Das Begita. And it means that if a person did not explicitly and expressly formulate his bittul haget, but he indicates from his actions that he's not interested in the get. He changed his mind about the get. And Abai and Rava are going to debate whether or not Gili Das is sufficient to be mevatel a shliach haget. The story is told. Gidul bar Re'ilai, Shadar le Gittin lebesa. He sent a shliach with a get to his wife. Ozil shlicha, his shliach went over there. The ashkra daviyasva v'navu. He finds her busy weaving, and he shows her the get, but he didn't give her the get. The Omer Gittin, take a look. See, this is your get. Take a look at it. Omer, she says to the shliach, seal, get out of here. Hashta mios. Right now, I want you out. V'solamach, you want to come back tomorrow? Come back tomorrow. In the meantime, he hadn't delivered the get. Ozil Agabe goes back to the Baal, which is this fellow Gidul. The Omer, and he tells him that he has not yet handed over the get to the hands of the Isha. He thanks the Ribbon Shalom, this Gidul, that the get was not given. And this bracha is a bracha that's recited on a Shmua Tova. As the Gemara says in Brachos Nudal al Besoros Tovos Omer Baruch HaTov HaMeitiv. So he heard a good Besora, and therefore he's very, very happy. The get was not delivered. Wow. Abai Omar, Abai says, okay, Baruch HaTov HaMeitiv, fine. He expressed his gratitude to the Almighty. But that's not a bittul haget, lo batel gita. For bittul haget, you need to tell the shliach that you are batel, and that he didn't do. Rav Omar Baruch HaTov HaMeitiv batel gita. Rav says he was megaladas, indicating clearly that he's very happy that the get was not delivered and the shlichus was not fulfilled. And therefore, the get is batel, and would have to write a new get to replace the old one. B'may kamiflagi, begili daita begita kamiflagi, the Abai savar gili daita begita lav milsahi, the Rava savar gili daita begita milsahi. So this is the machlokas Abai v'Rava, a fundamental issue regarding bittul hashlichus, whether or not we can use the circumstantial evidence that clearly indicates that the Baal doesn't want the get to be delivered, and that could replace the need for a formal bittul hashlichus. According to Rava, and Abai says, no, we're not going to apply Gili Dat. Omar Rav Mina immediately. Now, each one, Abai and Rava, respectively, are going to bring stories in which, from the previous earlier generation, there was a great Amora who paskined, and based on his Horah, we can determine what the status of Gili Dat is. So Rava tells the story of Rav Sheshes. Ashkele Gito Ahu Gavra Bal Korche. Now, the Gemara doesn't tell us the circumstances, but the bottom line is that they wanted to force the Baal to divorce his wife. And there were many situations in which Bezdin would apply the principle of kfir and force him to give a get. The Amalahu, and the Baal said Lasadi to the witnesses that were appointed against his will, Hachi Amalahu, this is what I heard in the name of Sheshes. And again, he invented this. And Li Batel Gita, the get should be Batel. Now, he was afraid to make an official bittul because they're going to start beating him up. But he tried to convince the Eidim that Rav Sheshes himself had a change of heart and decided to be Mavatel the get. So now we have a clear-cut case of Gili Das, that the Baal went out of his way to indicate that he doesn't want the get to be delivered. And as a result of this Gili Das, the get was batel, and Rav Sheshes had to replace the get with a second one. So we see that even though there was no explicit bittul get, nevertheless, as long as we understand through Gili Das that he doesn't want to get, Rav Sheshes considered it as a bittul get. Abaye, what's Abaye going to explain about Rav Sheshes? Or to Rav Sheshes bavatel gita de inshi hava, is Rav Sheshes someone who is mevatel the gitim of anoshim? No. Ain't a bittul yochel yosel seli there. Baal. Rav Sheshes is not going to do a bittul in place of the Baal. So therefore, we don't even have a gili das over here. So it's not that, that Rava, you're right, and you can tell from Rav Sheshes that he was willing to disqualify the get because of this gili das. But in truth, there is no gili das here, says Abaye. Why is that so? He says, "Iu batla v'haide kamer luhu hachi." This was not a case of bittul of gili das, where he didn't formally disqualify the shliach and declare him null and void, and therefore we have to figure out from circumstances that he wants to be mavatal to get. No, iu batla. He himself made a declaration that this get is batal. That's exactly what happened with that Hahu Gavra of Rav Sheshes. So why did this guy say that it was Rav Sheshes who's mavatal to get mishum dafnoi? Dafnoi means he was afraid of the repercussions. They would beat him up if he was mavatal to get, because here Rav Sheshes was applying pressure on him to be Megarish's wife, and now he's going to go ahead and be mavatal the get after Rav Sheshes had the get written and so forth and so on. That he's afraid of the repercussions, so he basically fudges it and camouflages it as if Rav Sheshes himself declared the get to be batal, to be null and void. So this is not a case of gili das. On the contrary, this is a case where he explicitly was mavatal again. But I have a different story to tell you, from which I derive the conclusion that gili das is not considered a bittul. The Rav Yehuda Ashkele Gita Lechasne, the Rav Yirmiyah Bira. Again, Ashkele meaning he forced. In this case, Rav Yehuda forced the son-in-law of Rav Yirmiyah to write a get. And then the Baal, who is again Rav Yirmiyah's son-in-law, we don't know his name here, Ubatle, and he was mavatal the get. So Rav Yehuda goes back and a second time forces him to give a get. Ubatli, and again he was mavatal the get. So this is already, we're going on the third get. So in the third get already, he's forcing him to give the get. Rav Yehuda says to the Eidim who heard the Baal tell and direct them to write the get, Osivu korebu and chayu. Take small pieces of dalas. Rabbi, did you ever hear of flents? No. Okay, I don't know if you're there, but in any event, so there's something called flents, which are otherwise known as earplugs. And basically, what Rav Yehuda told the Edom is put earplugs into your ear, uksuvale, and write the get, so that if the Baal wants to mevatel the get, he won't be able to mevatel it. Why? Because he won't be able to hear the bittul get. And this seems to indicate that all you need is two witnesses to be mevatel the get, or the shlichus. And that's Rav Nachman back on Lamed Beis, Amid Beis. At any rate, we see, says Abaye, that from this story we see that gili das of the Baal that he doesn't want to get is not meaningful, because Rabbi Yehuda said to the Eidim, just simply clog up your ears that you shouldn't hear the bittul. What difference does it make whether the Eidim actually hear his bittul? It's irrelevant. He indicated that he wants to be mevatel the get. He's running after the Eidim and he wants to be mevatel the shlichus, and he doesn't want to get. And yet, Rav Yehuda instructs the Eidim to put the earplugs into their ears and the get will be valid. So we see that Gili Daita Begita Lav Shmei Bittul. For Rava, Rava holds Gili Das is meaningful to me, Mavatal, the get, or the Shlichus. How in this Maisa could Rabbi Yehuda say, well, put earplugs into your ear and you won't hear the bittul? And the answer is, says Rava, Hi de Karod Basrayu, the Omar Lahu Ashur. Havulu Haya Ki Hecha de Mishlam Tzara da Hugav. Now, I'm going to interpret this Gemara based on the Chassam Sofer. This Baal is in a state of tsar. Why is he in a state of tsar? Rabbi Yehuda wanted to force him to divorce his wife. So he basically put him into like quarantine, into like, a prison cell, and he couldn't get out. So he was in terrible anguish over this. So therefore, the Baal actually was running after the shluchim, after the Eidim, in order to hurry up the giving of the get, so Rabbi Yehuda would let him out of prison. The where do I know that Gili Daita Begeta, that he doesn't want the shlichus is not meaningful, it's not effective? Dahu, there was a person who went to a far off place, but before he went out, he gave a get to his wife. But he said to Allah, give me 30 days to come back. If I don't come back in 30 days, the get will be chal. Also, he came on the 30th day, Upaska Mabra, and the river, the bridge over the river broke, and there was no way he could cross the river to get from one side to the other, and he was onus. Amalahu, he says to those who are right there on his side of the river, Chazudasoi, please note that I'm here. I want to come. I'm honest. I'm in a situation beyond my control because of this rapids river that separates me. Shmuel means it's not, he didn't come, and therefore he did not fulfill the t'nai or the bittul get. But here again, says Abaye, who's Megaladais, that he doesn't want the Gerishim to be chal. Ruder Asoi, see that I'm coming. The Rava who holds that Gili Das is meaningful to be Mavatal the get. How's he going to explain the story that Shmuel said that the get is chal, even though the Baal says Chazuda Soy, and he answers Rava, Otu Hosam Levetuli Gita boy, Hosam Lekiyume Tanayu the boy, Volokiyim Tanay. What this man was saying is not that I'm coming to be Mavatal the get. If he had said that, then it would be Batal. Even if he would be Megaladas on a bittul get. But here, he's not talking about bittul get. He's saying Chazuda soy means take a look, and that was Mekayim the Tanai, that would prevent the Chalos HaGerish. But for her, lo Ikayim Tanai. But in reality, he never fulfilled that bittul hatanai of coming. Instead, he didn't come, and if he didn't come, the Tanai is Makuyab, and the get is valid. Now the Gemara tells us other stories, which the psak of which depends upon the machlokas Abai v'Rav. Hahu, a man gives a get to his wife, but she was an arusa. It was before Nesuin. The Amalahu, and at the time that he delivers the get, he makes the following condition: Ilo nesivna tlasin yom levi get. If I don't come back here to marry you within 30 days, let this get be again. Imatu tlasin yomin. On day 30, she was not yet nesua. There was no chuppah. Omar lahu ha tarachna. I am busy preparing the marriage. All tzarche and nesuin. And if I wasn't able, I didn't have the time to marry her yet, but I certainly want to marry her. I just need a little bit more time to prepare for the wedding ceremony. And therefore, he's really indicating that he doesn't want to get. But on the other hand, within 30 days, he didn't come because he was too busy preparing for the wedding. Gemara says, if he's saying that because he was so tired, he was honest, circumstances prevented him beyond his control to show up and be vavatal to get, is ein onus begittin. We paskin that onus begittin is not a condition. And if the Tanai was literally fulfilled, even though it was fulfilled by onus, then the get is chal. The imishum gili daita begita, you want to be mavatal to get because he was megala das that he certainly wants to marry her, not divorce her, is plukta dabai v'rava. We're going to paskin like Abaye against Rava, and gili das is not enough to undermine the get. So we cannot be mavatal the get, and the get is chal. Another story, again dependent on the machlokes Abaye v'Rava. Who? The Amr lahu. At the time of the gerushin, he says, "Ilona sivna l'reish yarcha the adar levi gita." If I don't marry my arusa before Rosh Chodesh Adar, the get should be chal. But ki mota reish yarcha the adar. When it came to Rosh Chodesh Adar, and there was still no nesuin, Amar lahu. I thought we were talking about Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Then the get will be chal. So I thought I had an extra month until I would marry her, bring her into the chuppah, because we haven't gotten yet to Rosh Chodesh Nisan. But had I known that I had said Ad Rosh Chodesh Adar, I would have married her before that date. So I'm an onus. So Gemara says again, Ain't onus begin v'mishum gili daita plukte dabai v'rava, and we're going to pass like Abaye that gili das is not meaningful and the get therefore is valid, and there's no bittul. Just 1 second, I have a lot of important papers here. Give me a second. Sorry, these are all my pictures. I want to get that little notebook from you. Okay, another story. No, this one. Hahu, the Amalahu, Ilona Sivnal Reish Yarcha. Okay, fine, we finished that. Hilchasa Kenachman. So we go back to Daf Lamed Beis, and the question was, number one, Bittul Haget Shalom B'fnei Hashliach, and Rav Nachman is of the opinion that all you need is the presence of 2 witnesses. Against Rav Sheshes requires a person of 3. Hilchasa Kenachman, another halacha like Nachman, who says that we paskin twice like Rebbe in 2 different machlokas. Rebbe said that if a person was mavatal shalom b'fnei hashliach, the bittul is chal b'di'eved, against Rav Shimon Gamliel, who said him kein ma'akov bezin yofa. And also Rebbe's statement that if he says to Asar b'nei Olam kisvu get li'ishti, he can revatal the shlichus of one of them, and that's not even in the presence of the other shluchim, and that is a bittul, and that's mevatal those shlichus. Whereas Rav Shimon Gamliel says once he said to 10 people, he's got to be mevatal the shlichus of any of them in front of all 10 of them. And finally, the Hilchasa Nachmeni. Nachmeni is Abaye. Now, why is Nachmeni Abaye? Rashi has a whole piece here on the top of Daf Lamed Daled Amid Beis. Del Shem Sherabba Bar Nachmeni Gidel Abaye Bebeisa. So Abaye was born without parents. His mother died at childbirth, and he was raised by someone by the name of Rabba Bar Nachmeni. And therefore, we give the name to Abaye of Nachmeni. And here we paskin like Nachmeni. Rashi says that we're going to paskin like Abaye that Gili Das Lav Shmei Bittul, and that Rashi says is the Gimel of Kegam. So we have 6 cases in which we paskin like Abaye against Rava. So we'll go through the 6. Right? We have Yud, and we have Ayin and Lamed, and Kuf, Gimel, Samach. Okay, you know what? Let's take out the Gemara itself, and we'll go through it. Yud is the sugya of Yesh Shalom Midas, and we pass like Abaye Lo Avi Yesh. Ayin is the sugya of let's see, Eidim Zomimim, right? That there's machlokes Abaye v'Rav whether 8 Zomim is Lamafreya Unif, so we pass like Abaye Lamafreya Unif. So Lamed, can you hear me, Rabbi? Lamed is Lechi Ha'omed Me'elav. Kuf is Kedushin Sheinim Sorim Labia, like when he marries two sisters. And then Gimel, we said was Gili Das we get. And finally, we have Samach. Samach is the case of a Mumar. And the question is, if he's a Mumar L'Teyavin, a Mumar L'Hachis. In all these cases, we pass him like Abai.